watching and listening to a BBC News special. You're with the BBC and with me, Mariam Mashiri, outside the Palais de Justice, the courtroom which has been the epicenter of this case, a case that has horrified, shocked and captivated much of this country and indeed the world. The case which saw a man stand on trial, guilty as of today of drugging and raping his wife, Gisèle Pelicot, and inviting at least 50 other men to do the same. Over the last 30 minutes or so, we have been hearing sentencing of all of these men. The headline today is that Dominique Pelicot has been found guilty and sentenced to 20 years in jail for his crimes. Other men are being sentenced as we speak. Understandably, it's taking a long time for the judge to get through the names and to put forward the sentencing. But we're hearing sentences of between 3 and 13 years for most of the other men. There is one outlier in this case, and that is Jean-Pierre Maréchal, who has been given 12 years for his crime. His crime is not that of attacking Gisèle Pelicot. Instead, it is of being a copycat of Dominique Pelicot and drugging and raping his own wife and inviting Dominique Pelicot to do the same. He has been sentenced to 12 years for that crime. Gisèle Pelicot is in the courtroom together with her family. We've been hearing from our courtroom reporter, who is in the overflow room next to the room where Gisèle is, that she is calm. She has been resting her head on the wall inside the courtroom and not been showing a huge amount of emotion. I know that in the last few minutes we've been hearing that her family have looked upset. And the reason why they've looked upset is because some of these sentences, many of the sentences given to these men, have been lower than the number of years the prosecutors have asked for. But as we heard there from Anne, nonetheless, they have been found guilty of the crimes which they have been accused of. And one of the things that sets this case apart from any other case is the bravery of Gisèle Pelicot. She has become an icon here in France, particularly amongst the feminist movement. But to be honest, I've been hearing from people coming up to me and talking to me throughout the time I've been here about her bravery, just ordinary people. She waived her right to anonymity near the beginning of this case, and she went from being Gisèle P, which is how they described her, to protect her, to Gisèle Pelicot. And that waiving of anonymity was really to underline the fact that, in her belief, women who are abused, women who accuse men of rape and sexual violence, are often seen under a veil, a cloud of shame. Gisèle Pelicot said herself that she wants shame to change sides. She wants shame to be put on the accused and not on the accuser. It is a trial that was described by former Prime Minister Michel Barnier as a watershed moment for French society. He said that there will be a before and there will be an after this case. And that really is the hope of many activists and watchers of French society. And one of those is Jamie Kingler, who joins me now down the line. Jamie, we spoke a bit earlier, and I know that Gisèle Pelicot very much has featured in the New European as an iconic figure. Talk to me a little bit about your reaction, first of all, to these sentences and the verdicts that we've been hearing in the last half an hour.
I think it's a really hard day, I think, to hear how many men participated. And I think we also need to recognize that there's more men and they didn't see all of this and come forward and confess their actions and feel shame and own what they did to her. Those men will not be prosecuted because they weren't identified. And so it's not that there's this eruption of men learning what consent is and taking responsibility and accountability for their actions. These men have been covering their faces, they've been covering their heads, while Gisèle Pelicot has stood up with her shoulders back and forced all of us to acknowledge and accept what was done to her over 10 years. And the sentences, there's no sentence that's going to be enough. Obviously, I wish that they had been prosecuted to the absolute extent of the law. But I think also in England, we're going to look at it and be like, oh, but we would have done more. The fact of the matter is there's a 1.7% conviction rate for rapes in this country. And we need to think about what that does to victims and what that does to their futures, their mental health, their possibilities. And our whole system has for so long focused on what the woman did, what the woman's sexual history was, what responsibility they played, that we didn't fight hard enough, we didn't scream loud enough, we didn't take enough defense classes. And the fact of the matter is, this is not on us, and we really, really need to use the work done by Betsy Stanko and Catherine Cole in the UK that's called Operation Soteria Bluestone. And that kind of work really focuses on the perpetrators and not the victims. And that conversational shift, I didn't think was going to happen in my lifetime. No matter what work we do, it feels like you're screaming into a void a lot. But actually, Madame Pelicot gave me the right to think this could change. And in doing so, erupted a whole new conversation that has amazed and mystified me. That she's in the courtroom holding her head held high. I'm crying off camera just listening to your reporting, let alone had it happen to me and my family, and sitting there and standing and looking at each of those men and forcing them to see what they did to her.
And Jamie, you're right. Just having followed this case from the beginning and seen the way that Gisèle Pelicot has conducted herself, and even today walking into court with a smile on her face, looking, almost radiant and graceful in the way that she moved into court, it says a lot, doesn't it, about how she sees herself, because she's been made an icon by so many in France, and she's lived up to that, hasn't she, in the way that she has behaved throughout this case.
Absolutely. And by refusing to accept the shame and refusing, when I first read about it, she was anonymous, and everything I thought was, oh my God, how is she ever going to exist? How is she ever going to go to the supermarket? How will she exist in life knowing this was done to her and finding all this out? And then by taking off the shroud, by standing up to them and to force the court who didn't want to watch the videos to see the videos, and forcing journalists to watch the videos, it's absolutely nothing short of revolutionary. And it's completely changed how I think about her. Like this morning, I'm texting friends like, I can't cry. She's not crying. I'm certainly not going to cry talking about her bravery. And it's traumatic. It's vicariously traumatic to all of us. The people standing out there, all of us know women that have been attacked. All of us know women that have privately told their stories. And those stories don't need to be told at 2 a.m. crying by ourselves. We can own our stories, and we can say them loud, and we can say what was done to us without it being our fault.
Jamie, thank you very much indeed.